Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
I was yelling
What
at
is happening?
well, I was just telling you before the show. I want to tell you, I think I'm ready for like a technology cleanse. Like even a day, like this Saturday, it's my kid's birthday party. I might just leave my phone and this upstairs because this thing yesterday was like harassing me. It was like,
That's a
oh, you
Whoop.
closed your app. Be sure. Oh, it's a Whoop. Yeah, it's a Whoop. It's cool. I like it. It's highly recommended by
Dear
the
user,
people.
dear user, I noticed you're anxious. Would you like me to remind you how anxious you are?
Yeah, or like I noticed some high stress. Could you please like enter in? So it's just drawing me to my phone more. I'm like, and then it was like, could you journal, what you did today? Like, did you have caffeine before bed? And I finally bit. I was like, okay. And I pushed yes. And then it was like another survey of questions, like how much? I was like, no, fuck off. Like you're a wearable, you exist in the background. I'll let you know if I want to check on my heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just was like, man, you just got mad at something like a wristband, like you probably just need to unplug for things. So here we are doing some Zen.
Yeah. There's a lot of predictions in that Yuval Noah Harari book, Sapiens, but one that I found chilling was that when AI really kicks into gear and you're really tracking all your biometrics, it's not going to make us super healthy. It'll make us super anxious. It's like everything you eat, you'll know that it increases your likelihood for testicular cancer by 0.001% or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Or when you like
Yeah.
genetically screen your newborn, you're like, oh no, he has like a 0.05% chance of astigmatism.
My microplastics last year got everyone buzzing.
Yeah,
Microplastics, yeah, not so
too
good.
much data, not enough knowledge.
Yeah.
I've had fraught relationships with trackers like that thing too, and I just don't want to know. I don't want to know how many
I
steps I did or didn't do.
Yeah, for the first time. Well, I that's the thing. I want to know the steps because
You want to know that?
I want to gamify my health. Like that's the motivation, right? I go play tennis. I want to get back and be like, look at that, my heart rate. Like I'm so healthy, and it feels good. But yeah, yesterday was the first time I was like, maybe just do a health assessment once a year and just live your life. Like because I'm dialed in. I am plugged in 24/7 to everything. So could I not have something on my wrist, So like, it's like wear me in the shower. I'm like, how about fuck off? Like I wanted like 5 minutes to myself. You know what I mean? Like, could I just so then I had this epiphany today that maybe like, yeah, even if it's like once a week, right? I really should spend once a week directly with my family. So maybe that's it. I'll just take off the Whoop. I'll put my phone upstairs and I'll
Put
just
it on the
be
the
honest.
bedside table, and it's looking at you like I thought I was your Whoop man, and there you are hanging out with your family
Oh,
without me.
yeah. It's just sitting on the desk
Used
fan,
to
like
be
looking at.
something.
So we'll see. We'll see about that. But in the
I'll tell you,
meantime,
one of our engineers gave me this life tip, and I got to share it to everybody I talk to now. On an iPhone, maybe this is possible on Android also, but I don't know about you, but I'm addicted to my phone, addicted to Twitter and things like that.
yeah,
You can put it on monochrome. There's a setting so that it's like it sucks all the color out. It's not
yeah, you
black and
triple
white.
tap the side thing. I do it all the time by accident. And I'm always tripping out. Like, what happened?
And then when you pull it out, at 2 in the morning to like, oh, I wonder what's going on in crypto Twitter because there's no color. It just doesn't have that high fructose corn syrup kick. And it's a lot easier to just turn the phone back off. So it's still perfectly functional, but
Yeah,
just now with less addictive qualities. Anyway, do with that what you will. It's the greatest thing ever. It was like the first day of the rest of my life when I learned
that's
about that.
interesting. Yeah, I was on a plane to New York actually on Friday. I came to see you,
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, we did a little biz deving with some people in New York. And on the plane down, I spoke to a woman next to me. She's a consultant, young woman, probably in her late 20s, and I love that that's like 10 years younger than me now. I'm like, what the hell? What happened, baby? But she was talking about Brick, like this little device you kind of put near certain, like put on your computer desk or something, and it blocks any devices in the area from using certain apps. So you program it against like automated distractibility. I thought that's interesting, like an Atomic Habits kind of module of like, take the batteries out of your TV remote and stick them in one room and stick the remote in another room. You can watch TV anytime you want, but you will watch it 70% less if you have to take those two pieces of friction and rub them together. So Similar kind of vibe. She's like, I can go on Facebook, but I have to leave my phone, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was another interesting, like little hacks. That's my focus this month, is like finding little hacks to make all of the work, smoother.
Mhm.
How can we optimize? How can I optimize for tasks in a day? Because there's a lot. We're doing a lot right now, and that's what we're going to get into today. So if you joined us, you're done with the banter. We have a lot to cover today, namely the DevNet. We're going to tickle it. We're going to dig into it and tease
Into the
that.
news.
Enter the news. There's a new page coming out.
Let me just show, don't tell.
Yeah, that's my thing. I like to show, don't tell.
Let's see.
I do have some things to tell that I cannot show today. Ha ha ha. But
We'll show and tell.
Very preliminary stuff, but super exciting. It's not appropriate to name drop, but I can talk loosely about some things that have developed in the past week. And I want to opine on the potential of what things could be built. Things can be built on our brand new primitive that we're going to DevNet right now, as soon as the producer pushes it live to the front of the screen.
Yeah, the Samsara DevNet, it's been going well. It's very illuminating. I really like this developing out in the open. We took a lot of chances and changes with how to package the Nirvana mechanism in a more streamlined way to be optimized for just anybody. Because after all, Samsara is taking the Nirvana core AVM and applying it to any token on any chain. So it's got to have candy coating on it. It needs to go down easy. Nirvana is this big, beautiful, eternal battleship, which plays according to its own rules. Samsara is a more immediate experience where you have these perks of rising floor, liquidation-free lending, et cetera, and one of my favorite features of Nirvana, incremental governance. So this is coming live in the demo later today, ironing out some of the final kinks in the hose with it. And this is what we're looking at. So for those of you just joining in, since this is my favorite topic, I'll just take 2 minutes to describe how Nirvana does governance. Got so much of Nirvana, as I think about it, is a response to the crypto status quo. The response being, can we make it more like crypto, less like a traditional company? Famously, Nirvana does this with liquidity and value. But there's another way that crypto projects tend to exhibit a dearth of imagination, where they're just copying traditional non-algorithmic ways of doing things, especially when it comes to governance. It all feels very much like shareholder meetings, boardrooms, committee meetings, the way these projects are governed.
It's awful. I've
Kind of is.
I've engaged with a few DAOs just in passing, because a token I had happened to be a DAO token, and I went in there and I was like, everyone's fighting and there's like factions forming and it's just politics, and that's great. And I'm actually pretty impressed that we can do that. I'm not hating on the DAO structure. It's just not for me.
I remember being in student government back in high school or college. And my goodness, if you want something done slowly, put 30, 20-year-olds in a room together and have them argue for weeks on end.
Yeah, and if you want to win, like, put a benevolent dictator in place. That's the term we like to use back in 2021 with Danny and Wonderland, is like the benevolent dictator, like somebody who can just move fast and not ask questions and just get it done. And if you put your trust in, a killer dev like yourself, you can just move ahead.
Or you could do things a decentralized way.
Well, that's the end game. But like for now, it's like, you tell me what's best, because you're the designer, you're the brain trust here. What's best, as you're pointing out, what I think you were getting to is
what's best is this form of governance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like
gosh,
create your playground and then just let the metrics flow. This is nice, by the way. The reason earlier I went like, whoa, is because I haven't seen this iteration of the Gov page. We looked at it a week ago. You said I don't like it. And I was like, why? It's fine. And now I see what you mean. This is much nicer.
Yeah, a lot of buttons, a lot of fields. Governing is hard, and governing is kind of a luxury good for people who have opinions and want to vote. The way that this is different than DAOs most typically is that when there's a decision to be made for a project, let's take an example like a margin program like Aave, a borrow lend, and that thing is pasted over with parameters and numbers. How much credit does $1 of ETH collateral get you? You get 50 cents on the dollar, 75, 77 cents. And where does that number come from? So you might try to govern this decision of, let's set the number to be 90 or 50, using a big vote. The issue with that, well, there's several issues. One of the primary ones is that these changes happen in a big discrete leap. It was 50% max LTV one day, and then the next day it jumps up to 90 because somebody won an argument and allocated enough votes to push that proposal through. You can have these massive sudden changes. And another issue with this is because governance is often, it's crypto, so things are financialized, generally speaking. You can buy your way to the top, and you can force propositions to go through. And quite often, this is the prerogative of the investors in projects. Not always, but quite often it's the investors who have massive allocations of these governance tokens. They got the sweetheart deal, they were early, and for the rest of time, they'll probably control, the majority, if not the mode of the votes, and can push things through. And so you end up just on the wrong foot. It's kind of an original sin that you can never scrub off as you're trying to decentralize the control. So what Nirvana does and what Samsara continues to do is a form of governance which is incremental. It's, I'm American. I like the American system, which is grind the gears. The best government governs slowly, and you can't make big changes. You have to have checks and balances. The incremental governance that goes on in Nirvana and Samsara is that any parameter that can be governed changes gradually. You can't suddenly move it from 1 to 5. You have to step through to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And there's a speed bump on this. You can only make a change once in a while. In Nirvana, it's every week. It'll most likely be that with Samsara also.
Please.
And, yeah.
Keep it the same.
Yeah, anything tighter than a week just feels too fast to me. 1 week is almost too fast with these things because, again, you want it to be slow and gradual.
Slow and gradual. We've been talking about this lately. One of the changes that I don't think we've mentioned, so this would be a bit of a news drop, but is increasing the pace, the increment size. I think to your point, incremental is good, but we both agreed, I believe, that the increments may have been too small for Nirvana, where it's a period of months. You set a target on, maybe there's even consensus. There was a bit of consensus in the chat in March when I said, like, hey, these fees should go up to something that's more on par with such an asset for buys and sells. And it was like, cool. And it's like, we're 4 or 5 months later and we're still just getting to that. Could you double it? Could it be 8 weeks to double something, 8 weeks to cut something in half?
No, I think you're right. I came into this as a career software engineer where part of working in that field is fear of change. That you want things to be stable and slow moving. You might have an epiphany 1 week and then feel like, I got to change everything. And that's just not how you build robust systems, because you might make a mistake. And Nirvana was set up to have, we're coming to find, probably too slow of a rate of change. It's obviously debatable, what the right speed is for how quickly things change. But yeah, I agree that there's not enough kick in how.
And when things change, when things change fast, it increases the value or perceived value or importance of that governance token. And that was kind of my angle. I was just like, at this point, it's a little sleepy, the governance. Like, like, oh, I got my vote, I didn't get my vote, nothing much is going to happen. I'm not too worried about it. And when things can double in 8 weeks, 2 months is a long time in crypto, but it's not too long. It's not,
Mhm.
it's not going to be super fast. I wouldn't want more than that. But as a passionate governor of the Nirvana protocol, I was yearning for a little more oomph. Because then, there was people saying like, well, maybe we should go this far. Oh, that's going to take 2.5 years. Forget about it. Like, so yeah, I was a strong advocate for this. I know a number of other people did, and they approached us about it. I think we landed on our Wizards Council where we started talking about where should all these metrics start with Samsara. Let's just pick them. You said, I don't want to do this alone, guys. Let's. So we got together. And I think the takeaway there, correct me if I'm wrong, was 10% increments. So essentially doubling in 2 weeks or 8 weeks, and cutting in half in 8 weeks. And that would just be a ratio based thing. So true across the board. That feels right to me. It's about twice as fast as the current Nirvana, right?
Yeah.
Although they're kind of all over the place. Some are fast, some are slow.
You wouldn't mind a colorful analogy.
I love your analogies.
Bitcoin.
You know this.
So the other part of having a speed bump or slowness is so you can't have takeovers easily.
Yeah.
So if somebody were to amass a lot of governance power, it would take them a long time to hold on to that monopoly, that tyranny, and push things through. So you want to slow it down also so that so
you can see it coming.
Yeah. And there's time to respond to it.
Yeah.
Blockchains are designed according to this principle. That's why they are blockchains, where you have this rule that anybody can mine blocks, and it's just the longest chain that we're going to go with as the canonical one. The thought of that being, if somebody tried to take over 51% of the hash rate, they would have to keep it up for a long time before they could take over the network. So the people complain about Bitcoin being slow. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's something like 10 to 20 minutes for a block to process. I might be off by a lot.
10. It's aiming for 10. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually a feature for exactly this. So it's resilient to takeovers. That if you slow down the blocks, you can have time to respond if it ever happens that like a secret GPU farm in Antarctica comes online and starts mining the whole thing. Same idea here. Yes, you're trying to find a balance where things change fast enough that it's interesting and not too fast that it's fragile. And it's tough to strike that balance, but I think we got it.
Yeah, well, and look, we get to play with it now. So governance page going live on DevNet today? Question mark. So today you'll see this on there. This is honestly really nice. I have not seen the new stacked UI. I really like it. And you can see here, guys, we have categorized the different things. This top section is fees, then floor raise parameters like the buffer and how much goes into the floor, Karma APRs, Karma revenue shares.
Yep.
So this will be interesting. It's not its final form yet either. I'm looking at it. I'm like, you didn't add the feature I mentioned. like there's still more to do here, guys. But this is a really nice get it out, get it live. Let's play with it. Let's break it.
This is why we're developing it out in the open. I gotta say, we've cooked on this for like 5 different iterations internally to try to make it intuitive and easy. I probably shouldn't even say that because I'm sure as soon as people get their hands on it, and we're like, this doesn't make any sense.
It's still not intuitive, but to the point, there's one in particular. If anyone wants to peek behind the curtain, when you're thinking about Prana and Karma and the floor, and that's where the protocol revenue goes. It's a 3-way pie, but how do you turn it into 2-way votes, right? You have to have 2-way votes, and one picks, Prana versus Karma or floor. Then the next one picks between Karma and floor. But how do you make that make sense? Even as I just described it now, someone who's very attuned with our protocol probably, what is he talking about? So it has to smack you right in the face. Now, look, this is not where 90% of our users go. I don't think, we're sitting out there marketing this and saying like, hey, everyone, come on in and learn the whole thing in governance. But it's certainly where Prana holders are going to go. It's certainly where the Nirvana OGs will go. And as people come and join and play in Samsara and bring their tokens for various Zen assets, they will be drawn to investigate it. And for that, they'll have to go to the Nirvana app to earn some prana and get it. So it's a very important thing that when they arrive at governance, they feel welcomed, they feel empowered, that they feel informed. And so thus, the intuitive design is critical for this page. And I'm really excited to get it out, because it could be the case that by the end of the weekend, one of the brilliant minds in our Discord is like, dude, do it like this. I used to write software. This is great. Here's an example. Who knows what ideas come from, but the DevNet stuff, and this is true for a lot of betas that I participated in, like the starting iteration of an app versus like the mainnet launch, can be night and day. And it really, really does come down to like participation, and then obviously having a nice feedback system. Have you been getting good Trello feedback for the thing we set up through the Discord feedback? Is that all flowing?
It is, yeah.
So it's not lost, guys. If you drop stuff in the DevNet feedback channel, our mod team kind of collates it and make sure it's not redundantly reaching the devs, and then it's nice and neat and organized, and it goes into engineering. So
it sure does.
Do not hesitate to share all of your concerns, ideas, brilliant suggestions in there as you use this. With that,
good.
You know what I want to talk about next.
Let me just put a
bow on
button on this topic.
Wrap it up, kid.
For the benefit of anybody who's just tuning in. I think we came in without setting a little bit of context, which is what is a prana token? What is
the a little bit of that
you govern? Because I want to talk about the strategy with samsara and how it spins the flywheel faster for nirvana. And you mentioned this also glancingly with how revenue is distributed to these tokens called karma and these tokens called prana. So prana is the governance token of the entire burgeoning nirvana universe. Anything that grows from this trunk will be using the prana token as the governance token. And that is true for nirvana, and that is now also true for samsara. The only place where you get prana from is by buying and holding ana for time. There's no pre-mine or whatever you want to call it. There's no allocation for this governance token. It's completely fair. It's based entirely on how much ana have you held for how long, which, by the way, induces FOMO, because when ana is cheap, it is easier to get karma. Because if ana were 10 times as much as it is today, acquiring prana would cost 10 times as much, since you'd have to pay 10 times as much to get ana.
Yeah.
Okay. So prana token, is there something?
No, just clear my throat. I was just going to say, you can also acquire it sometimes on dexes. There are some people posting liquidity for it, and I think that's good. I think that makes it a more liquid, transferable thing. It's designed to have to be earned, but there are people over time that will, we saw with Temple, right? The DevNet, where Temple of the Floor ran up to like $50, and then the floor was 27, and that made a prana token worth $23. And there's somebody that's going to say, you know what, that's a good score for me. I'm going to drop this on the market. So just pointing out that there will be possibly even an OTC marketplace in-house. But for now, I know a few people who have been buying it on Radium when they see little pockets of it show up, which is great. We want to see this thing just trading hands. Why not?
I know I'm taking pot shots, but another problem with governance tokens is they frequently don't do much, or they don't have much value. And that was one of the other improvements that Nirvana brings with governance, which is a prana token has monetary value as a property. It's in fact pegged the value that it has, in a manner of speaking, that a prana token can be spent at the protocol level as a call option to get ana. So when you were talking about the value of ana relative to the floor, that's monetary value for it.
Let's be clear on that. You actually just mentioned something that was brought up in a thread recently, and it was kind of mentioned as like, that's not true. Somebody mentioned prana being pegged, and you just said it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
In a manner of speaking.
Yes, in a manner of speaking. It is pegged to the delta. It is pegged to the delta between market price and floor price, and thus that is the value can be derived from it, but it is not in and of itself pegged to a singular value. Let's just
Oh no!
be
Oh,
clear.
that's not what I meant. No, no, no.
No, I know you didn't mean that, but I
That
want to,
is
because look, we have a lot of new ambassadors, we have a lot of new hopefuls and people wishing to become ambassadors, and as a lot of threads are going out, and there's a lot of misinformation out there that is just lack of understanding. So I want to be super clear, as you mentioned the word peg.
Oh well, maybe we're splitting a hair, but that is a peg.
Yeah, it's just a delta peg,
Yeah,
not a
yeah, and
stable coin peg.
it's pegged to that value. I mean, you can be pegged to something that's itself volatile. I mean, everything's volatile if you want to be philosophical. Something that's pegged to the dollar is still, has different purchase power from second to second. And if something were pegged to gold, just it moves around as gold moves around, and the value of prana moves around as the delta moves around. However, it's not pegged for a different reason, in that it has two other attributes that give it value. It's actually worth more than the delta. Mm-hmm. And the moreness is speculative. It's non-pegged. It's worth more than the delta because, apropos, it gives you governance power. And secondarily, it gives you revenue share, which is where we were leading up to. That a prana token also is used as a share of the revenue that all of this produces. So not only is it an in-the-money call option, but you also vote with it. And if you hold it, you are acquiring revenue all the time. And so you talked about how revenue is shared between karma and prana. What's going on in samsara is that revenue is split to prana token holders because, hey, we love the governance token. Prana should be receiving revenue, and it's receiving revenue from all the samsara markets in existence. That makes prana very, very valuable, potentially. And then each samsara market also has self-contained revenue share to what we call karma, which is kind of like points. That if you're holding one of the tokens for a market, if you're holding Zen Soul, you're accruing karma or points for the amount of Zen Soul you've held for the amount of time that you've held it.
Can I just show this? Do you have your earn page up? I'm accruing karma right now.
Oh, wait, leave. I think if you
have any,
you could. I don't have any. I don't have any.
The non-participator. He's too busy coding the thing. He's not actually.
No. I use Fresh Wallets to really debug things.
Okay,
we can just stay on this screen.
I can share. You keep chatting. I'm going to share screen.
Okay.
I want to see the earn. I love it.
So if you're holding a Zen token, you're also acquiring a stream of native yield all the time. Yield that comes from borrowing, trading, exercising options, and that just goes to you pro rata for how much Zen that you've held. So we call that karma. It's a good thing. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to clear out my blank screen.
Oh, he's got me up. Okay, so here's the earn page.
Oh, look at you. Look at you accruing your points.
Yeah, I got, zooming in. Okay.
And your 19 JLP that you've...
Yeah, I've got some JLP. Oh, I've got 19. Yeah, nice. And this is your karma. So, I brought some JLP to the protocol, testnet in this case. I bought some Zen JLP, the value of which is now, my mouse is up here, the value of which is now 1.78 JLP, right? Everything is denominated in its base asset here. So I bought some JLP for a price in JLP. And now the nice thing is, I love that you did this. I don't have to go stake it anywhere. It's just, I bought it and it is. I bought it and I instantly see these nice fun numbers blasting higher. And this is my karma. This is the percentage of all the karma in existence for this asset that I own. And I haven't claimed yet today, so I'll go do that. I think I have to zoom out.
Yeah, so that means you're getting 21% of the revenue dedicated to karma for that
the portion. Yeah. So
you're quite a whale. 21%.
So if you think of this in terms of $1 of total fee, a portion of it goes to the protocol, and of that protocol portion, some of that goes to karma, and of that that's going to karma, 21% goes to me. And this kind of complex system, because it is fairly complex from a DeFi perspective, is going to be simplified with both UI and infographics and click on videos. This stuff is not something you should have to have a PhD in DeFi to understand. And that is my waking goal. And is just to have, hovers and click throughs, understand the product system here. And it's just, 2 minutes of explaining how every little bit works. So that's all the kind of stuff that we're padding into this once the UI and everything is hardened. Very excited for that.
This is like trying to think of what it would be like looking at this as an audience member and asking, where does the yield come from? Is this a Ponzi? Like, where is the money coming from to give you these rewards? Are they emissions? Are they farms? Are they bribes? And the answer is no. This is all organic revenue derived from the exchange. That when people trade, they pay a fee. That fee is going to the karma holders, the prana holders. When people borrow, they pay a fee. That goes there. It's kind of like deploying your capital as a market maker and earning yield from people trading on your money, and like lending credit capital and then earning yield from the borrowers who are paying interest. This just does both at the same time. You're earning yield both from the trading and the borrowing. It's a nice unification of finance in one handy derivative. So that's where the yield comes from. It's quite simple. When there's volume, when there's activity, you just make more money because you're the liquidity provider at the end of the day.
This is a fabulous segue. So I'm going to cut you off right there and talk about my new baby. Now, this is in the earliest possible phases of design. I am meeting with certain professionals literally after this call today. You and I are both going to join in. And so, bear with me. There's a lot of people I've said, look, it's all about show, don't tell. And then there's a lot of people who are like, no, just tell us our tea. So I'm going to tell you.
Good impression.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you today. I'm going to talk about it. And you know what? When you have someone who's going to talk about something, it's not fully ironed out. You're not allowed to get upset if it changes before it goes live. But this is the plan. This is my current obsession of the last 5 days. Because I ask myself, when I look at this product and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. You have lending and borrowing baked into a thing. You have self-repaying loans essentially because there's no interest on it plus yield equals negative interest. And then you can't have that loan be liquidated. Okay. Very cool. This is all cool. Bells and whistles. Fantastic. But as you just pointed out, it accrues a revenue or it prints a revenue out when there's volume. So who's going to use it? Well, if it's the Zen bonk market, only a bonk holder can use that market. And if it's JLP, only JLP holders. So you're capped, per market. You have look, the fun thing is you don't need to bring new USDC into this market, right? Everyone out there holding all these tokens, they're already holding the tokens. In a lot of cases, they are tokens that don't print a yield natively. So it's intuitive and it makes sense that you might bring that over to a Zen market and buy it. But here's the hook. And I've been thinking about this. Actually, it was a founder who told me this the other day. I was pitching this idea. We're talking about a partnership for Zen tokens and a listing, and he's in. He's like, this is amazing. This is awesome. And at the end of the call, I was like, oh, and there could be some tax efficiencies for holders who would prefer to borrow against their, in this case, we'll say for fun, it was not the bonk team, but it was say, okay, bonk token. I don't want to sell it, but I would like to access some capital. Buy, borrow, die. The billionaire's playbook from the 1930s and ever since. I don't want to pay tax on my assets, so I'm not going to sell them. I'm just going to borrow against them. What if, because we have the tooling here, this is a new primitive on Solana. What if we built a vault on top of Samsara? And I'm saying what if because it's not been designed yet, but it's in the early phases, and I'm pretty sure it can be done. I have my tax accountant, my quant, has already looked at this and said, this is very compelling. I think we can do this. Let's meet again. So we're having that meeting today. So I take my bonk token I've got some capital gain baked into it. Maybe I bought it for $1,000. Now that bag is worth 10,000. I'd like to have some of that money, but I don't really want to pay tax on it. I don't want to sell it either. I want to maintain my upside. I would like to take out a loan against it. Now, if you have Bitcoin and you have ETH and you have Solana, you can go to places. There's very liquid borrow lends out there, and you can pay some interest. And every time, if ETH rolls over and takes a bath, there's going to be people posting accounts on MakerDAO that are going to get liquidated. And so you have that liquidation risk and you have that interest. But you can't do that for most tokens. Most tokens exist outside of liquid borrow lends. You need to go find a lender. You have to pay them interest. And if your collateral loses its value, they're going to steal it, or not steal it, but they're going to acquire it. So it's not a complete solution that already exists. This tooling offers a possible solution where a vault, let's call it Zen Loans, the Zen Loans vault will facilitate a USDC lend against a Zen token. And let's think about the flow here. I bring a bag of bonk. I walk up to my Zen Loan vault and I deposit it and I withdraw USDC. There's a loan there. What happened inside the vault to enable this? Well, the vault took in that bonk token. It bought the Zen bonk token. It then borrowed bonk against it and went to a DEX or a SEX and sold it to USDC. And then it lent me the USDC. Now that loan is on the books. I can have a promissory note NFT potentially sitting there in my wallet to prove that I have this debt against this vault. I still hold those tokens. They are mine in the custody sense. Well, not custody sense, but like ownership. They are mine. It's my collateral, but it's locked up until I repay the loan. Okay, blah, blah, blah. This is the inner workings of this potential vault that I'm concocting right now. Then good luck, because you're the one who has to build it, Sid. And so he's like, yeah, I'm ready. And so at the end of the day, what happens is maybe I'm a team member, I'm an advisor, an investor, or just otherwise an early adopting whale. I have a large position. Well, the end game is that I always want to access liquidity for that, right? We're not like every token in existence, pretty much, except ours actually, had a pie chart in a pitch deck, and it was sold. It was assigned a value, and then the team went out and built a product to drive up demand and generate liquidity, inevitably for their exit. Now, that doesn't make them nefarious bad actors. They worked hard. They built a product, ideally something that's very useful, and they would like to go buy a house or pay for their kids' tuition, whatever. They should be allowed to do that. And there are a lot of people out there whose job it is to help them do that in a tax efficient way, to help them get out of that position in a way that reduces taxes. It's not about dodging and avoiding taxes. It's about being smart. It's about saying, like, this is how the system works, and I would like to pay an efficient amount of tax. Me personally, I pay a ton of tax. But if my accountant said, look, if you take this loan and borrow like that, you could pay a little less tax and still, put your kid through daycare. like, okay, like that would save me some money. I would love that. Can we build a product on top of Zen markets, on top of Samsara, that facilitates token in, USDC out for any token that has a Zen market? I think we can, according to my preliminary discussions with my tax accountant and tax lawyer. And then we go, and then it's like, look, this is why I almost didn't talk about this today, because it's just an exciting idea right now. It's very early. It's going to be by jurisdiction. We're probably focusing on the Canada and the US to start as far as the people I'm going to be speaking to. And it's probably not going to be out in November. Like, relax, you know what I mean? But this is the vision, because when I ask myself, and this is the game theory that comes up with these tokens, right? You're going to buy this thing 20% off the floor, 50% off the floor. At about 58% off the floor starts to lift. Now we have the sizzle, so the floor is always buzzing, but who's going to be that buyer in the higher delta regions? Anyone who's putting their funds through this Zen vault, this Zen Loans vault. Because if I stand to save a significant amount of tax, I don't really care about the delta of the floor, especially because within that vault, my collateralized position is generating yield. that will pay down my loan, extend my credit size, and also the floor is kind of churning up over time, and that extends and expands the credit line as well. So this vault would potentially, again, we may design it in such a way that it, people only want to use it when the delta is a certain way. I don't know these things yet. There's a lot to hammer out here, but if I know if I'm a large token holder and I have $1 million gain on a position, and somebody says, here's an option where you could liquidate this over a period of 6 weeks into a loan and pay it back at your leisure because the interest rate is low or non-existent, and you're not going to get liquidated because your collateral is only borrowing against its minimum value, I'd probably do that. And I don't think I would ask too many questions about what's going on. Like, obviously I'd want to know what's going on inside the vault, but I'm not going to be sitting here trading it. I'm just going to be like, yes, please, I'd like to place my tokens in this vault and borrow. And on the back end, this thing is just buying Zen tokens, buying, and holding and holding and holding. That's it. That's the idea. Who's not going to want that? Like, what token, what project, what party, like every single token on every chain has a bunch of large holders. Now, there's an obvious shortfall of this, which somebody would always want to point out, which is that it's selling the token on the back end. So yes, a founder with 20% of the supply can't go in tomorrow and borrow against it fully because it's selling it out there on the market. They still have to be sensitive to the liquidity of their underlying market. That's always, that's already the case. So it's always going to be the case. Now, if they go to Aave, they're not selling it. They're, like there's not a sale going on here with the Zen Vault. So it's not, it's not this magical machine. It's going to have its nuances, but it's something that has kept me up for a number of nights. And we've locked in with a few tax professionals that are going to walk us through exactly how it needs to be designed to be a proper borrow-lend. This is a borrow-lend product that is unique. And I think it is going to be, it's the first thing that we've thought of to build on top of this new primitive that I'm like, oh, damn, that's it. That's the driver. That's the piece that's going to really take this cool new thing that does a lot of stuff and give it a very purposeful, solution-focused job to do, which is create a borrow-lend market against any token that has a Zen market.
I have a funny story. I brought in some new auditors a while back. And when you bring in auditors, you have to explain how the product works. Here's what this is, rising floor, call options, et cetera, et cetera. And auditors, their job is to go through and find bugs in the code, but they'll also give opinions on the design of the program itself, because how can you help yourself? And early on, after the introduction, they returned with their preliminary report and like, critical issue, you're not charging interest on your loans. My response to that was just, I know it sounds too good to be true. Welcome to Nirvana. Now you're getting it. Yeah, one of the killer features of this is borrowing without interest and without liquidation risk. So it's a very peaceful kind of borrowing. Now, Samsara Nirvana could have interest, could do that.
It might need it, actually, and we'll tell you about that after. It might actually need to have some for this to work, and that would still just be less than the yield. But.
Well, the reason it isn't there is because the prime directive is no liquidations. Just don't worry about it. Just leave that out. That if you're paying interest as a borrower, eventually your debt will creep up, and there's going to be a margin call if you miss an interest payment. Anyway, the North Star here is that you can take your credit capital out, you can borrow, and go on your merry way and never look back and just retain your exposure to your collateral. And that's a very serene way to draft debt.
Yeah.
And to your point about the tax advantage of this, debt is not income. So you also mentioned that the other way people try to get liquid cash without incurring capital gains is by collateralizing their asset and then just borrowing something like dollars based off of their asset collateral. And for most tokens out there, and by most I mean 99.99999%, there's just no liquidity for that. I just checked on Camino randomly, for what the liquidity is for bunk, just because we were talking about it, and it's less than $500,000 that you can borrow. It's about 300,000. That's all that there is to borrow on the back of bunk, at least in that market. And on top of that, the max you can borrow is 60 cents on the dollar per bunk token.
LTV,
so very expensive and very illiquid way to get cash without incurring income tax.
And to the point is where I didn't want to talk about it yet today at first, because I want to make sure that this is for sure, because this is the interesting thing. And here's just, I am not a tax professional, but I have spent the last 4 years of my life deep in talks with them because I have taxes to do for crypto. And like, it is, as some might describe it, it's a bit of a wasteland as far as like precedent setting, know-hows, like when I go to Interactive Brokers and I print my statement, it's like, like file your statement. This is just how it works. It's a known thing. With crypto taxes, you'll go to different advisors. I'll have some accountants that literally told me I'm not going to do your taxes because like, I don't want to, stand by anything that's going on with crypto. Like they just don't get it yet. And then there's other crypto accountants. The one I have is fantastic. And he's like, essentially it's a spectrum, and different people will take it. They refer to your claims or whatever, your filings, as aggressive. They say that's pretty aggressive. You're claiming that this is the case when in fact, or you could have one that's very conservative. It's like, I'm not going to try to do all these write-offs. Right? And so there's this spectrum. I want to make this vault conservative. I want to make it so it's like anyone would sit there and there's just a consensus that like, this is 100% a borrow. You borrowed it. Here's proof. You have an NFT promissory note sitting in your wallet that has the terms on it. Like these are some of the ideas that are being generated around like, how do you harden this thing? Because it is a borrow. But you don't want it to be such a thing that like someday comes along and somebody, there's things called reclassifications where they say, oh, for example, this is what I was going to say about interest rates. There are cases where, and I get this. And in fact, I had a friend who did this. She wanted to, she had to buy something. It was a piece of property, small one. And she couldn't get a mortgage at the bank. This was back in 2021. I said, well, like we're like best friends, godparents of each other's kids. I was like, I'll lend you that money. I'll invest in that property, whatever. I'll buy it. And I talked to my accountant. He's like, you can't not charge her interest rate. Like you have to charge her something. You have to charge her the federal fund rate, because otherwise it could be reclassified as a gift and then it's taxable income for her. So like these kinds of nuances, this is the DD that I'm doing now with specific regard to this product, because when we put it out there, it's going to be airtight, or it's not going to go out. So that is the phase that I'm at with this. And okay, so you have a federal fund rate oracle from Chainlink or Pith, and the protocol charges that rate. It will most likely be lower than the yield that's being paid on the position anyways. So it'll be an effective non-interest rate, but you'll have your I-99s that you can file that show the interest you've paid on those loans. And, this, well, looks like our spaces just ended. It just popped up. Oh, whoops. I don't know if we're still live, but maybe. The government shut us down. No, I don't know. Is that all done then? Damn. Oh, we're still live on our broadcast. Okay, cool. Spaces is off, but broadcast is live. Okay, so I forget what I was saying there, but I was wrapping up.
The headline here is that this is a massive opportunity.
Yeah.
Because this is a greenfield derivative. The funny thing about financial derivatives is they expand the horizon of what's possible. When somebody invented the put option, there's a lot that you can do on the back of that, and stuff that maybe the designer of it wasn't even thinking of at the time. The Zen token derivative has this unique property where it's a derivative of a base asset, and it gives you an access to a line of credit in the base asset. So in the case of Zen Bitcoin, Bitcoin goes in, Zen Bitcoin is created, that is collateralized, and it gives you credit in terms of Bitcoin. So you can pull Bitcoin back out as debt, and that is not income.
Because you owe that money. Like when you
With
file, yeah.
the caveats. And so with now you have Bitcoin in your hand, which is not income, meaning that if it is sold, that is also not income. To sell something that isn't income does not produce income.
Yeah.
And so you've produced a debt version. You've turned an asset into a debt version of itself. And this is another way of getting at the issue of how do I take something that I hold as an asset and collect capital on it without incurring capital gains tax.
Yeah.
The
And it's
typical
not
way of doing it is borrowing dollars by collateralizing it with a Zen derivative. You work with the asset itself and then can go on your merry way with that.
Yeah. And this is not a new thing, right? Like, well, most of these borrow-lend protocols exist for this reason. A lot of times it's like, marginal leverage where it's like, hey, I'm going to take this Bitcoin, which I want to keep holding because I don't want to sell it and incur gains, but I'd like to go buy some shit coins. So I'm going to go and stuff it in Aave and I'm going to borrow a couple $100K against it and I'm going to go shit coining. Or because I want to just go spend my money, but I want to keep my Bitcoin and I don't want to cash out and pay tax. So this is just potentially, again, early phase, but this is the kind of product that I could see allowing such like a borrow lend to exist on top of any token that ends up being a Zen token. And the critical piece is this vault, and having it facilitate kind of under the hood on the back end, leveraging these Samsara Zen derivatives. And the vault itself, will charge a fee and have an interest rate oracle, and it will be a genuine borrow lend protocol that just uses Samsara on the back end. And that's the dream. That's the thing I'm thinking of. And the total addressable market is every token in crypto with a team who would like to someday access capital against their tokens. And investors, large holders, advisors.
That is a benefit of this derivative.
Small holders, too. It's just that, yeah, I'm excited. So I've been on phone calls for days, just hammering through this. It was actually an idea from a founder who was like, "Make this for me, please." So it's something that is now my primary focus until it is hardened as an idea and a design, and you guys spec it out on the dev side, and we'll just add it to the roadmap somewhere past the Samsara mainnet. According to my ChatGPT, it'll take a couple months to develop if you had a full team working on it today. But I don't know things like that. So I'm going to hand it off to you once I get all those nuances worked out. I'm super excited. And that might be a good segue into a shutdown for today because we have that call in about 30 minutes. I want to go prepare for it. With my tax quant. That's it, guys. When you build, the thing that excites me the most about all this is it is just a new primitive. It's a new thing on top of which things will be built. And this is the first thing that I've thought up to build. And I think it smacks. I feel really good about it. I'm excited. It's the thing that would drive the volume of this protocol, which, it's nice to have that passive outside bid who's not sitting there worrying about delta in and out and all this stuff. It's just completing a service. I want to access capital against my tokens. There's no existing borrow lend that will do that for me. Can I put it in the Zen Loan vault and access some cash? Maybe yes. Stay tuned. Yeah. No, probably. I would say probably with the preliminary calls I've already had, probably. But you know me. I like to make 110% sure things are real before I get too excited. But here I was telling before showing. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I stepped out of my comfort zone. I would have much preferred showcase this to you full design in like 2 months, but this is what's happening in the kitchen at my house today.
You raise an interesting point about the funding rate. And the moral of the story is, for something this massive, it will be done right according to the stipulation of jurisdictions. And you know who doesn't meet the federal funding rate? Pretty much all other DeFi borrow lends.
Yeah, and look, and I've never used that strategy. So yeah, I didn't mean to put you in hot water there. I don't know, because I don't use a borrow exit in any of my crypto. I've not had the privilege of having such bags that I could do that with. So, it's not something I've done, but it is something billionaires have been doing and fairly rich people have been doing for millennia. And honestly, I don't know if it works in Europe. This might be a US based rule, might be a Canadian based rule. I don't have all those things figured out, but I am focused on Canada, US right now, because that's where I'm hopping around these days. And we're just going to hammer away at it. It's a beautiful idea, and we have the protocol to build it on top of. So yeah, these are the kinds of things that just fire me up every day. We also locked in. I'm going to drop a little bit of alpha today. I'm not going to talk about it much because it is so premature, but I have a verbal commitment, MOU, which we'll be hammering out all the details on in the coming week or two, for the first DAO that is going to make an investment in Samsara's future revenue such that they can accumulate ANA tokens in their treasury. That's another call I got off this morning from an old friend who's pretty much like, yeah, we're going to do this. Let's just hammer out the details. I'm super excited. Let's do it. So, yay. Lots cooking. When I say we're cooking, this is what I'm talking about. I just, show don't tell would be like, wait for that on Twitter in 3 weeks. But we're here and I'm feeling chatty. So there you go.
Yeah.
Peek inside the kitchen today. That's why we're here, right? So, but that's it. No more. That's all I got. No more today. We should go.
All right, friend.
A little prep to do.
Call it there.
Yeah. Really nice to have you guys today joining us. So thank you for tuning in. And my old tagline, I'm always whatever you do, always play from a position of strength. It's my old trading live stream. You should check it out. I think it's still on YouTube. Okay. Take care, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks back on Ashram Hours. Until next time, be awesome.
And play from a position of strength.
Namaste.